The moment Lena's fingers brushed against the wet substance beneath Adrian Kovac's table, she knew two things. She'd just discovered a death sentence meant for the most dangerous man in the city, and speaking up would probably get her killed faster than staying silent. This is a story about survival, split-second choices, and the night one woman's past came back to save a monster's life. If you want to see how this ends, stick around until the final word. And hey, drop a like and comment with your city name so I can see just how far this story travels. You might be surprised who's listening. The Pier's Edge restaurant smelled like salt, cigarette smoke, and old wood that had survived too many storms. Lena Varelli moved through the narrow spaces between tables like she'd been doing it her whole life, which, in a way, she had. 7 years of carrying plates, refilling glasses, and perfecting the art of being invisible. She was good at it. Had to be. The kind of people who came to Pier's Edge didn't want to be remembered. They wanted dim lighting, cheap whiskey, and servers who knew when to look away. Tonight felt different, though. Lena had noticed it the moment she walked in for her shift at 6. Marco, the floor manager, was sweating more than usual. His collar was dark with it, and he kept glancing toward the private dining section like it might explode. The kitchen staff moved quieter. Even drunk regulars at the bar seemed subdued, nursing their drinks instead of shouting at the television. "What's going on?" Lena asked Marco as she tied her apron. He didn't look at her. "Private party tonight. Whole second floor." "So?" "So keep your head down and do exactly what you're told." Marco finally met her eyes. His were bloodshot. "I mean it, Lena. Tonight's not the night to fuck around." She wanted to ask more, but Marco had already walked away, barking orders at the kitchen. Lena grabbed her order pad and pushed through the double doors into the dining room. The first floor was nearly empty, a handful of regulars scattered across tables, but the usual Friday crowd was gone. Above her, she could hear footsteps. Heavy ones. Lots of them. "Lena," she turned. Carlo, one of the older servers, stood near the staircase. He looked pale. "You're upstairs tonight," he said. Her stomach dropped. "What?" "Boss's orders. They requested extra staff, you, me, and Sophia." "Who's they?" Carlo's jaw tightened. "Does it matter?" It did. But from the look on his face, asking wouldn't change anything. Lena followed Carlo up the narrow staircase. The second floor was technically a banquet room, but it rarely got used. The carpet was worn, the wallpaper peeling in the corners. But tonight, someone had made an effort. Candles on every table, fresh flowers, expensive ones, the kind you didn't see in this part of town. And men, lots of men. They stood in clusters near the windows, talking in low voices. Most wore suits that probably cost more than Lena made in 6 months. A few had visible shoulder holsters. One guy by the door had a scar running from his temple to his jaw, and he watched Lena with eyes that didn't blink enough. "Jesus," Sophia whispered beside her. She was younger than Lena, barely 22, and her hands were already shaking. "Who are these people?" "No idea," Lena lied. She knew exactly who they were. You didn't grow up in this city without learning to recognize power, the kind of power that didn't need to announce itself because everyone already knew. Marco appeared from the kitchen, carrying a tray of wine bottles. "You three, listen up. Service starts in 10 minutes. You do not speak unless spoken to. You refill glasses before they're empty. You do not ask questions. You do not make eye contact unless necessary. Understood?" "Who's the client?" Carlo asked. Marco's face went gray. "Does it fucking matter, Carlo? I'd like to know whose bullets I'm dodging if this goes sideways. Then quit. Right now. Walk out." Marco's voice was harsh, but there was fear underneath it. "Otherwise, shut up and do your job." Nobody moved. Lena's heart was pounding, but she kept her face neutral. She'd learned that from her father, how to hide what you were feeling, how to survive in rooms where showing fear could get you hurt. He'd been dead 3 years now, but his lessons still echoed. Never let them see you're scared. Never give them a reason to notice you. The door at the far end of the room opened. The temperature seemed to drop. A man walked in, and every conversation stopped. Not because he was loud or flashy, the opposite. He moved with the kind of quiet confidence that came from never having to prove anything. Tall, maybe 6'2". Dark hair graying at the temples. Expensive suit, perfectly tailored. His face was sharp, angular, the kind that looked carved rather than born. Adrian Kovac. Lena's breath caught. She'd never seen him in person, but everyone knew the name. You couldn't live in this city and not know. Kovac didn't just run an organization, he was the organization. Drugs, gambling, protection, construction contracts, union deals. If money moved through the city, Kovac's hand was somewhere in the chain, and people who crossed him disappeared. Not arrested, not charged, just gone. Behind Kovac, more men filed in. She recognized a few faces from newspaper photos. City councilman, union boss, a lawyer who'd gotten 3 consecutive mayors out of corruption charges. And then, Victor Salazar. Lena's stomach twisted. Salazar was younger than Kovac, maybe early 40s, handsome in a way that probably got him whatever he wanted. Slicked back hair, tailored suit, easy smile. But his eyes were cold, calculating. Salazar ran the West Side, Kovac ran everything else. The two organizations had been circling each other for years, rumors of war simmering beneath the surface. But here they were, sitting down to dinner. Either someone brokered a truce, or this was about to go very badly. "Wine," Marco hissed, shoving a bottle into Lena's hands. "Start pouring. Table 4. Lena moved on autopilot. Table 4 was near the center of the room. 3 men in dark suits, watching the door like predators. She approached with the wine bottle, keeping her eyes down. "Gentlemen?" One of them grunted. She poured in silence, hands steady, despite the adrenaline screaming through her veins. The men didn't acknowledge her. Good. Invisible was good. She moved to the next table, then the next. The room gradually filled with the low murmur of conversation, the clink of glasses. Kovac sat at the head table with Salazar to his right. They weren't talking much, just watching each other. Lena refilled glasses, cleared plates, brought bread. She fell into the rhythm of it, letting muscle memory take over while her mind raced. Why tonight? Why here? Pier's Edge wasn't exactly neutral ground. It was close enough to Kovac's territory that Salazar showing up was a statement, but public enough that outright violence seemed unlikely. Seemed. "Miss?" Lena turned. One of Salazar's men was gesturing to his empty glass. She grabbed a fresh bottle and crossed the room. As she poured, she caught fragments of conversation from nearby tables. "Shipment arrives Tuesday. Councilman's already paid. Pension funds cleaner than cash." None of it meant anything to her, but she filed it away anyway. Information was currency in this world. You never knew when you might need it. She finished pouring and stepped back, and nearly collided with someone. "Careful." The voice was low, controlled. Lena looked up into Adrian Kovac's face. Up close, he was even more intimidating, not because of size or aggression, but because of the absolute stillness in his eyes, like looking into a frozen lake. "Sorry, sir," Lena said quietly, stepping aside. Kovac studied her for a moment. His gaze swept over her face, her uniform, her hands. Then he nodded once and walked past. Lena exhaled slowly. Her hands were shaking now. She gripped the wine bottle tighter and returned to the kitchen. "You okay?" Sophia asked. She looked like she might throw up. "Fine," Lena said. "Just keep moving. Don't think about it." The next hour crawled by. Courses came and went, appetizers, salads, entrees. The men ate and drank and talked in voices too low to hear clearly. Kovac and Salazar maintained their cold détente, speaking occasionally but never warmly. Lena kept her head down, refilled glasses, cleared plates. Invisible. Until she wasn't. It happened at table 1, Kovac's table. She'd been reaching across to refill a water glass when her sleeve caught on the edge of a plate. Not hard, just enough to nudge it. The plate shifted and something beneath the table brushed against her forearm. Something wet. Lena froze. It wasn't water, wasn't wine. The texture was wrong, thicker, almost oily, and it smelled faintly of almonds. Her blood turned to ice. No, she knew that smell. Knew it from 8 years ago when her brother Marco, not the floor manager, her actual brother, had nearly died from a contaminated batch of cocaine. The dealer had cut it with something industrial, something that smelled exactly like this. Bitter almonds, cyanide compounds. But this wasn't cocaine, this was poison. Deliberate, carefully placed poison. Lena's mind raced. The substance was on the underside of the table, right where Kovac's hands would rest between courses, absorbed through the skin, maybe, or transferred to his food, slow-acting enough that he wouldn't notice immediately, wouldn't connect it to the dinner. She straightened slowly, her heart hammering so hard she thought everyone must hear it. Nobody was looking at her. The conversation continued. Glasses clinked. Someone laughed. Lena glanced at the head table. Kovac's hands were on the table's edge, inches from where the poison was smeared. Walk away. The thought was loud, insistent. This wasn't her problem. These weren't her people. Kovac was a criminal, a killer. Whatever happened to him, he probably deserved, and getting involved would get her killed. Salazar's men were everywhere. If this was his play, and it had to be, who else would poison Kovac at a peace dinner? Then they'd be watching, waiting for the poison to work. Anyone who interfered would be a witness, a loose end, walk away, survive. Lena turned toward the kitchen, made it 3 steps, and stopped. She thought about her father, about the debts he'd left behind, about the men who'd come to collect, the ones who'd backed off when she'd convinced them she was worthless, not worth the trouble. She'd survived by being invisible, by not mattering. But her father had mattered. He'd fought for his family even when it cost him everything. And her brother had survived because someone, a nurse who didn't have to care, had recognized the symptoms and acted fast. Lena closed her eyes. Stupid. This is so stupid. She turned back around. Kovac was lifting his wine glass. His hand rested on the table's edge, right over the poison. Lena grabbed a fresh bottle of wine and walked straight to the head table. Her hands were steady. Her face was blank. She looked like every other server in every other restaurant, just doing her job. She reached Kovac's side. More wine, sir? He glanced up, mildly annoyed. I'm fine. Lena leaned in slightly, like she was checking his glass, and in a voice so low it was barely a whisper, she said, Don't touch the table. The words hung in the air for half a second. Kovac's expression didn't change, but his eyes sharpened, locked onto hers. What did you say? Lena's throat was dry. She could feel Salazar's gaze on her now, could sense the shift in the room's energy. The underside of the table, sir. Her voice was still quiet, still calm. Don't touch it. Don't let it touch your food. For 3 endless seconds, Kovac stared at her. Then, without breaking eye contact, he lifted his hand from the table's edge. Bring me a napkin, he said clearly. Clean one. Lena nodded and walked to the kitchen, her legs somehow still working despite the terror flooding her system. She grabbed a stack of linen napkins and returned. Kovac took one. Casually, like he was just being fastidious, he wiped his hands. Then, with deliberate slowness, he reached beneath the table. The room had gone quiet. Not obviously. Conversation still murmured, glasses still clinked, but there was a tension now. People were watching. Kovac's fingers came back wet. He brought them to his nose. Inhaled. His face remained perfectly neutral, but something cold and deadly flickered in his eyes. He wiped his fingers clean, then gestured to one of his men. The guy approached and Kovac leaned in, whispering something. The man disappeared toward the back of the room. Kovac picked up his wine glass and took a slow sip, like nothing had happened. But Lena saw the way his jaw tightened, saw the calculation behind his eyes. Thank you, he said to her, voice neutral. That will be all. Lena nodded and retreated to the kitchen, her heart pounding so hard she felt dizzy. Sophia grabbed her arm. What the hell was that? Nothing, Lena said. Just nothing. But it wasn't nothing. Through the kitchen door's small window, Lena watched as Kovac stood. The room fell silent immediately. Victor, Kovac said, his voice carrying easily. A word. Privately. Salazar smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Of course. They moved to a corner of the room, away from the tables. 2 of Kovac's men flanked them. 2 of Salazar's did the same. Lena couldn't hear what was said, but she saw Kovac gesture subtly toward his table. Saw Salazar's expression flicker, just for a second, before smoothing back into that easy smile. Saw Kovac's man return and whisper something in his boss's ear. And saw the moment Salazar realized he'd been caught. It happened fast. Kovac's men moved in unison, grabbing Salazar's arms. Not violently, almost gently, but firm. Salazar's men reached for their weapons and froze when they realized they were outnumbered 3-1. Every one of Kovac's people had materialized from corners, doorways, blind spots. They'd been there all along, waiting. This wasn't a peace dinner, it was a trap, and Salazar had walked right into it. "Gentlemen," Kovac said calmly, addressing the room, "Mr. Salazar will be leaving early. Please, continue your meals." Nobody moved. Salazar was escorted toward a side door, his face pale but composed. He didn't struggle, didn't shout, just walked, flanked by Kovac's men, and disappeared into the back hallway. The door closed behind them. Slowly, conversation resumed. Glasses were refilled. Someone made a joke. Laughter echoed. Too loud, too forced, but everyone knew what had just happened. Victor Salazar, the second most powerful man in the city, had just been removed from the board. Lena stood in the kitchen, gripping the counter, trying to breathe. "Holy shit," Carlo whispered. "Holy shit." Marco appeared, his face ashen. "Everyone out. Now. Leave through the back. Don't talk to anyone. Don't look at anyone. Just go." "What about—" Sophia started. "Now." They fled. Lena grabbed her coat and purse and followed Carlo down the back stairs, through the service alley, into the cold night air. She walked fast, head down, hands shaking. She'd just saved a crime lord's life, or she'd just witnessed a murder. Maybe both. Behind her, the Pier's Edge restaurant glowed warmly in the dark, its windows lit like nothing had happened. Like it was just another Friday night, Lena kept walking. She didn't look back. The next 3 days passed in a blur of fear and waiting. Lena called in sick to work, stayed in her apartment with the deadbolt locked and the curtains drawn. She jumped at every sound, footsteps in the hallway, cars backfiring outside, her phone buzzing with unknown numbers she didn't answer. She'd saved Kovac's life. That made her a witness, a liability. People who knew too much about Adrian Kovac didn't tend to live long. On the 4th day, there was a knock at her door. Lena froze on the couch. Every muscle tensed. Another knock. Firmer. "Miss Varelli." A man's voice, calm and professional. "We need to talk." She didn't move. "We're not here to hurt you. Mr. Kovac would like to speak with you. Privately." Lena's stomach dropped. She looked toward the fire escape, calculating distances. But if they were at her front door, there were probably more waiting outside. No way out. She stood, crossed to the door, and checked the peephole. 2 men in suits, clean-cut, professional. One of them she recognized from the restaurant, the guy with the scar. She opened the door a crack, keeping the chain on. "I don't want any trouble," she said. "Neither do we," Scarface said. "That's why we're asking nicely. Mr. Kovac would like a conversation. Nothing more." "And if I say no?" The man's expression didn't change. "Then you say no. But he'd consider it a personal favor." Lena knew what that meant. Favors from men like Kovac weren't optional. She closed the door, unhooked the chain, and opened it fully. "Where?" "Car's downstairs." She grabbed her jacket and followed them down. The car was a black sedan, spotless and expensive. She climbed into the back seat, wedged between the 2 men. They drove in silence. Lena watched the city pass outside the window, familiar streets giving way to unfamiliar ones. They crossed the bridge into the financial district, pulled into an underground garage beneath a high-rise. They took an elevator to the 23rd floor. The doors opened onto a hallway lined with dark wood and soft lighting. At the end, a set of double doors stood open. Inside was an office. Huge windows overlooking the city, leather furniture, a desk that probably cost more than Lena's yearly salary, and Adrian Kovac standing by the window with his hands in his pockets. "Thank you," he said to the men. "Leave us." They left. The doors closed. Lena stood there, heart pounding, waiting. Kovac turned to face her. In the daylight, he looked older, tired, human. "Sit," he said, gesturing to a chair. She sat. He moved to the desk, leaning against it. "You know who I am." "Yes." "And you know what I do." "Yes." "Then you understand that what happened the other night—" He paused. That was significant. Lena said nothing. Kovac studied her. How did you know? Know what? About the poison. She hesitated. I recognized the smell. From where? My brother. 8 years ago. Someone sold him contaminated drugs. Almost killed him. The smell was the same. Kovac nodded slowly. You saved my life. I told you not to touch the table. You did the rest. A faint smile. Modest. Lena met his gaze. What happened to Salazar? That's not your concern. Am I in danger? Kovac was quiet for a moment. Then, Salazar's people don't know what you did. They don't know you exist. As far as anyone's concerned, I discovered the poison myself. He straightened. You're safe, but that's not why you're here. Then why am I here? Because I want to offer you a job. Lena blinked. What? You acted under pressure, made the right call when most people would have run. That takes instinct. Kovac crossed his arms. I need people with good instincts. I'm a waitress. You're more than that. His eyes were sharp. You grew up in this city. You know how it works, and you've got debts. Her blood ran cold. How do you... I know everything that matters, Miss Varelli. Your father owed money to 3 different organizations when he died. You've been paying it down for 3 years, slowly, carefully, staying off everyone's radar. Lena's hands clenched in her lap. That's my business. It could be mine. Work for me, and those debts disappear, tonight. And in exchange? You do what you're good at. Pay attention. Report what you see. Help when needed. You want me to be a spy? I want you to be useful. Lena shook her head. No. Kovac raised an eyebrow. No? I'm not getting involved in your world. I did what I did because it was the right thing to do, not because I wanted anything from you. The right thing. Kovac's smile was cold. How noble. I'm not noble. I'm just trying to survive. Then let me help you survive better. By becoming one of your people? By looking over my shoulder for the rest of my life? Lena stood. No, thank you, but no. For a long moment, Kovac just looked at her. Then he sighed and moved to his desk, pulling open a drawer. He withdrew an envelope and held it out. What's that? Lena asked. Your debts, paid in full, receipts included. She stared at the envelope. I didn't ask for that. Consider it a thank you gift. I don't want your money. Too bad. It's already done. Kovac set the envelope on the desk between them. Take it or don't. Your choice. But the debts are cleared either way. Lena's throat tightened. 3 years of scraping by, 3 years of double shifts and skipped meals and constant fear. And just like that, it was over. Why? She whispered. Because you didn't have to help me, Kovac said simply. But you did. That's rare. She reached out slowly and took the envelope. It felt too light for the weight it carried. If you change your mind about the job, Kovac said. I won't, he smiled. We'll see. Lena turned towards the door. Miss Varelli. She paused. The staff at Pier's Edge, they saw what happened. Fear spiked through her. And? They'll be fine. No one touches them. You have my word. Relief flooded through her. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just stay smart. She left. The men drove her home in silence, dropped her at her building, and disappeared into the night. Lena climbed the stairs to her apartment, locked the door behind her, and opened the envelope. Inside were payoff receipts for every debt her father had left behind, and beneath them, a stack of cash. Enough to leave the city, enough to start over. No note, no strings, just freedom. Lena sat on her couch and cried for the first time in 3 years. 2 weeks later, she was gone. No forwarding address. No goodbyes. Just a quiet departure in the early morning, a bus ticket to somewhere far away. The Pier's Edge closed for renovations the same week. Reopened a month later under new management, different name, different staff. Victor Salazar was never seen again. No body, no arrest, just gone. And Adrian Kovac remained exactly where he'd always been, at the top of a world most people pretended not to see. But in the shadows of that world, one truth lingered. Everything had changed because one ordinary woman chose not to look away. The bus rattled over another pothole, and Lena's head knocked against the window. She'd been awake for 36 hours straight, watching highway lines blur past in the dark. Somewhere around hour 20, she'd stopped checking over her shoulder. Somewhere around hour 30, she'd started believing she might actually make it out. The envelope sat in her lap, thinner now. She'd pulled cash for the ticket, for food, for a motel room she hadn't used yet. The rest stayed tucked inside her jacket, pressed against her ribs like a secret. Outside, farmland stretched endlessly. Nothing like the city, no buildings clawing at the sky, no sirens, no crowds, just fields and fence posts and the occasional house set back from the road. Lena closed her eyes. She was supposed to feel relief, freedom, whatever people felt when they escaped. Instead, she just felt tired and guilty. She'd left Marco, the floor manager, not her brother, without notice. Left Sophia to pick up extra shifts. Left her apartment with 2 months' rent paid up front and a note taped to the landlord's door. She'd even left the city without visiting her brother, though that one hurt worse than the others. But staying would have been worse. Kovac had kept his word about the staff. She'd checked the news obsessively those first few days, scanning for reports of bodies found, suspicious deaths, anything that would confirm her worst fears. Nothing. Pier's Edge had closed quietly, and the people who'd worked there had scattered to other restaurants, other jobs, other lives. They were safe, and so was she, for now. The bus pulled into a town called Millbrook just after dawn, population 3,000, according to the faded sign at the county line. One main street, a diner, a hardware store, a post office that doubled as a general store. Lena stepped off the bus with her duffel bag and stood on the sidewalk, breathing air that didn't taste like exhaust and salt water. A woman in her 60s swept the sidewalk in front of the diner. She looked up, smiled. "Morning, hun. You look lost." "Just passing through," Lena said. "Well, if you need coffee and breakfast, we open in 10 minutes." "Thank you." Lena walked down the main street, taking inventory. Bank, library, laundromat, a bar called Rusty's that looked like it hadn't been updated since 1975. Everything was small, manageable. The kind of place where people probably knew each other's names. The kind of place where strangers got noticed. She'd have to be careful. The motel sat at the edge of town, a single-story strip with peeling paint and a neon sign that buzzed in the daylight. The office smelled like coffee and old carpet. Behind the desk, a man in his 50s looked up from a crossword puzzle. "Help you? I need a room, just a few nights. 30 a night, paid up front." Lena counted out cash. The man took it without comment, handed her a key attached to a plastic tag. "Room 7, checkouts at 11. "Thanks." The room was exactly what she'd expected. Single bed, scratched furniture, bathroom with a shower that dripped. But it was clean enough, and the lock worked. That's all that mattered. Lena dropped her bag on the bed and sat down, staring at the wall. She'd made it. 2,000 miles from the city, from Kovac, from everything. Now what? Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She stared at it, heart racing, then let it go to voicemail. It buzzed again immediately. Same number. Against every instinct, she answered. "Hello? Miss Varelli." A woman's voice, crisp and professional. "Please hold for Mr. Kovac." Lena's stomach dropped. "How did you—" A click. Then Kovac's voice, calm as ever. "Running away, Miss Varelli?" She stood, pacing. "You said I was free to go." "You are. I'm just checking in." "Checking in? You tracked my phone." "Of course I did." No apology in his tone. "You think I'd let you disappear without knowing where you went?" Lena's hand shook. "You said I was safe." "You are. This isn't a threat. It's insurance." "Insurance against what?" "Against you making stupid decisions." A pause. "Millbrook, Nebraska, population 3,000. You planning to stay?" That's none of your business. It is if Salazar's people come looking. Her blood turned cold. You said they didn't know about me. They don't, yet. But information has a way of surfacing, Miss Varelli, and when it does, I prefer to know where you are. Lena sank onto the bed. What do you want? Nothing. Keep the phone on. Check in once a week. That's all. And if I don't? Silence. Then, let's not find out. The line went dead. Lena sat there, phone in hand, trying to steady her breathing. She'd run 2,000 miles, and Kovac still had his hooks in her. Still knew exactly where she was. She should have thrown the phone away. Should have bought a burner, used cash for everything, stayed off the grid completely. But part of her, the part that had spent 3 years surviving on instinct, knew Kovac was right. If Salazar's people came looking, she'd rather have someone watching her back, even if that someone scared her almost as much. She put the phone on the nightstand and lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling. Outside, Millbrook woke up slowly. She could hear cars passing, voices drifting from the street. Normal sounds. Safe sounds. Lena closed her eyes and tried to believe it. 3 days passed. Lena found work at the diner, same woman who'd been sweeping the sidewalk that first morning. Her name was Ruth, and she didn't ask many questions when Lena walked in asking about employment. You cook? I can learn. Ruth looked her over. You run from something or toward something? Lena hesitated. Does it matter? Depends on what you're running from. Not trouble. Just needed a change. Ruth nodded slowly. Fair enough. Breakfast and lunch shift, 6 days a week. $8.50 an hour plus tips. You start tomorrow. It wasn't much, but it was enough. Lena took a room above the hardware store, cheaper than the motel, and the owner didn't ask for references, just first month's rent and a handshake. She settled into a routine. Up at 5. Work until 2. Groceries, laundry, reading in the tiny room until exhaustion pulled her under. She avoided conversations beyond what was necessary, kept her head down, stayed invisible. It almost worked. On her 8th day in Millbrook, a man walked into the diner around noon. Mid-30s, suit jacket over jeans, laptop bag slung over his shoulder. He took a booth by the window and ordered coffee. Lena brought it over, set it down without meeting his eyes. Thanks, he smiled. You're new in town. Just started. I'm Ben. I teach at the high school, history and civics. Lena. Nice to meet you, Lena. He gestured to the seat across from him. You want to sit? It's dead in here. I'm working. Ruth won't care. Trust me. Lena glanced back at the counter. Ruth was reading a magazine, not paying attention. Against her better judgment, she sat. Ben sipped his coffee. So where are you from? East Coast. That's vague. I like vague. He laughed. Fair. What brought you out here? Needed a change of scenery. Millbrook's definitely a change. Not much happens here. That's the point. Ben studied her for a moment, and Lena felt the weight of it. Not threatening, just curious. You running from something? He asked. Why does everyone ask that? Because people don't usually move to Millbrook unless they're running from something or running toward family. And you don't strike me as the family type. Lena stood. I should get back to work. Wait, I'm sorry, that was rude. Ben held up his hands. I'm just making conversation. Badly, apparently. It's fine. Let me buy you dinner sometime, as an apology. I don't think that's a good idea. Why not? Because getting close to people was dangerous. Because the less anyone knew about her, the safer she was. Because she didn't deserve normal things like dinner and conversation after what she'd seen, what she'd done. But she just said, I'm not really looking for that right now. That's okay. The offer stands if you change your mind. Lena walked back to the counter. Ruth glanced up, smirking. Ben's a good one. Single, employed, doesn't drink too much. Could do worse. I'm not interested. Didn't say you were, just saying. Lena refilled coffee pots and tried to ignore the way Ben looked at her when he thought she wasn't paying attention. A week later, her phone rang. Unknown number again. She almost didn't answer. Varelli. Check-in time. Kovac's voice, same as before. I'm fine. Any trouble? No. Good. Keep it that way. He hung up. Lena stared at the phone, a familiar anger building in her chest. She'd traveled 2,000 miles, started over, done everything right, and Kovac still treated her like an asset to be managed. She thought about smashing the phone, leaving Millbrook, moving somewhere else, disappearing completely. But she didn't. Because deep down, she knew Kovac's reach was longer than 2,000 miles. And if he wanted to find her, he would. Better to play along. For now. Ben came into the diner 3 more times that week. Always polite, always friendly, never pushing. On Friday, he left a $20 tip on a $12 tab. Ruth noticed. He likes you. He's wasting his time. Or you're wasting yours. Lena didn't respond. She pocketed the tip and cleared the table, ignoring the folded napkin Ben had left behind with his phone number written on it. That night, she lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the sound of Millbrook settling into silence. No sirens. No shouting. No gunshots echoing from 3 blocks over. Just quiet. It should have felt peaceful. Instead, it felt wrong, like wearing shoes that didn't fit. Lena had spent her whole life in the city. The noise, the chaos, the constant movement. That was normal. This was alien and lonely. She hadn't realized how lonely until Ben had smiled at her over coffee and asked where she was from. When was the last time someone had asked her a question like that? Not as an interrogation, not as a threat, just as a person trying to know another person. She couldn't remember. Her phone buzzed. Text message. Unknown number. Her heart seized. But it wasn't Kovac. Hope you're settling in. Town looks quiet. Good choice. Lena stared at the screen. Marco. Her brother. She'd left without telling him where she was going, just a voicemail saying she needed to disappear for a while. And somehow he'd found her. Or Kovac had told him. She typed back, "How did you find me?" The response came immediately. Called in a favor. "Don't worry. I didn't tell anyone else. You shouldn't have looked. You're my sister. What did you expect?" Lena closed her eyes. Marco had always been protective. Even after their father died, even after the debts piled up, he'd tried to shield her from the worst of it. She'd kept him at arm's length to protect him, but he'd never stopped trying. "I'm fine. I just need space. I know. Just wanted you to know I'm here if you need me. Thanks. Love you, Lena." She stared at those 3 words for a long time before typing back, "Love you too." The next morning, Ben was waiting outside the diner when she arrived for her shift. "I'm not stalking you," he said immediately. "I swear. I just wanted to catch you before you started work." Lena unlocked the door. "Why?" "Because I'm teaching a unit on immigration next week, and I thought you might have some insight. You know, coming from the city and all. I'm not an immigrant. I know, but you moved here. That's kind of the same thing. New place, new culture, starting over." Lena paused. "What do you want from me?" "Just your perspective. Maybe talk to the class for 20 minutes. I'll buy you lunch after." "I don't do public speaking. It's 12 kids in a classroom. Hardly public." She should have said no, should have walked inside and ended the conversation. Instead, she heard herself say, "When?" Ben's face lit up. "Tuesday, 2nd period. I'll pick you up at 9:30. "I can walk." "It's half a mile. I'll pick you up." He left before she could argue. Ruth was setting up the coffee station when Lena walked in. "Saw you talking to Ben. He wants me to talk to his class." "About what?" "Immigration." Ruth snorted. "You're about as much of an immigrant as I am, but it's sweet he's trying." "Trying what?" "To get you to say yes to something. Anything." Lena tied her apron. "It's just a class talk." "Sure it is." Tuesday arrived faster than Lena expected. Ben picked her up in a beat-up sedan that smelled like old coffee and chalk dust. The high school was a low brick building at the edge of town, surrounded by fields. "Nervous?" Ben asked as they walked inside. "No." Liar. The classroom was small, 12 students like he'd said. They looked bored until Lena walked in, then curious. Ben introduced her. This is Miss Varelli. She's going to talk to us about what it's like to move to a new place and start over. Lena stood at the front of the room, hands in her pockets, trying to figure out where to start. I'm not good at speeches, she said finally, so I'm just going to talk, and you can ask questions if you want. One kid in the back raised his hand. Where are you from? A city on the East Coast. Why'd you leave? Lena hesitated. I needed a change. That's vague, a girl in the front row said. Yeah, it is. So why should we care? The same girl asked. Ben started to intervene, but Lena held up a hand. You shouldn't, she said. Not about me specifically, but if you ever have to leave somewhere, because you want to or because you have to, you should know it's hard and lonely. And it doesn't get easier just because you made the choice. The room was quiet. When I got here, Lena continued, I didn't know anyone. I didn't know where the grocery store was or how to get to the bank. I didn't know if people would be nice or if they'd ask too many questions. I didn't know if I'd made a mistake. Did you? The boy in the back asked. I don't know yet. A girl near the window raised her hand. Do you miss where you came from? Lena thought about it. Yeah, sometimes. Then why not go back? Because sometimes you can't, even if you want to. The kids asked more questions about the city, about jobs, about what it was like living alone. Lena answered honestly, keeping details vague but emotions real. When the bell rang, Ben walked her out. That was great, he said. I didn't really say anything. You were honest. That matters. They grabbed lunch at a diner 2 towns over. Ben insisted, said he didn't want Ruth eavesdropping. Lena ordered a sandwich and tried not to think about how normal this felt. Can I ask you something? Ben said. Depends. Why Millbrook? Of all the places you could have gone, why here? Lena stared at her plate. It was far enough away. From what? Everything. Ben nodded slowly. You don't have to tell me, but if you ever want to, I'm a good listener. Why do you care? Because you seem like someone carrying something heavy, and I know what that's like. Lena looked up. Yeah? My dad died when I was 19, heart attack. I spent the next 5 years trying to outrun it. Moved 6 times, changed majors 3 times, couldn't sit still. Eventually ended up here, teaching history to kids who'd rather be on their phones. He smiled. It's not what I planned, but it's good. You think I'm running. I think you're surviving. There's a difference. Lena didn't know what to say to that. They finished lunch in comfortable silence, and Ben drove her back to town. When he dropped her off, he didn't ask for anything, just said, See you around, Lena. She watched him drive away, feeling something unfamiliar stir in her chest. Hope, maybe. Or just the memory of what hope used to feel like. That night, Kovac called again. Anything to report? No. You sure? You've been spending time with someone. Lena's blood went cold. You're watching me? I told you, insurance. Ben's a teacher. He's harmless. No one's harmless, Miss Varelli, but I'll allow it, for now. You'll allow it? Anger flared hot in her chest. I didn't ask for your permission. And yet here we are. Kovac's voice was maddeningly calm. You want to pretend you're free? That's fine. But we both know the truth. You're alive because I decided you could be. Don't forget that. The line went dead. Lena threw the phone across the room. It hit the wall and clattered to the floor, screen cracked but still functioning. She sat on the edge of her bed, shaking with rage and fear and exhaustion. Kovac was right. She wasn't free. Not really. She'd just traded one cage for another, this one bigger, prettier, but still locked, and she didn't know how to escape. The weeks blurred together. Work, sleep, occasional dinners with Ben when he wore her down enough to say yes. He never pushed, never asked the questions she couldn't answer, just talked about his students, his lesson plans, books he'd read. It was nice, dangerous, but nice. One evening in late October, Ruth asked her to close up the diner alone. Lena agreed, grateful for the distraction. She was wiping down tables when the bell above the door chimed. A man walked in. 40s, expensive coat, out of place in Millbrook. Lena's instinct screamed. Sorry, we're closed, she said, keeping her voice steady. The man smiled. I'm not here for food. Then you should leave. He pulled out a chair, sat down. I'm looking for someone. Woman, late 20s, dark hair, came through here a few months ago. Lena's heart hammered. Lots of people come through here. This one's special. She did something very stupid, very brave, and now some people want to talk to her. I don't know what you're talking about. The man leaned back, studying her. You know, it's funny. I've been to 6 towns looking for her, and every time I get the same answer. Don't know her, never seen her. But here's the thing. He pulled out a photo and slid it across the table. It was Lena. From the night at Pier's Edge, grainy security footage, but unmistakably her. Here, the man continued, I finally found someone who fits the description, and she's very nervous, which tells me I'm in the right place. Lena didn't move, didn't breathe. Who sent you? She asked quietly. Does it matter? Yes. The man smiled. Let's just say Mr. Kovac isn't the only one who values loyalty. Salazar's people. They'd found her. Lena's mind raced through options, none of them good. The front door was 15 feet away. The back exit through the kitchen was closer, but she'd have to get past him first. Her phone was in her pocket, cracked screen and all. But even if she called Kovac, he was 2,000 miles away. She was alone. The man watched her calculate, seeming amused by it. You're thinking about running, he said. Don't. There's another guy outside watching the street, and honestly, I'd rather this stayed civilized. What do you want? Just conversation, that's all. He gestured to the seat across from him. Sit. Lena stayed standing. I don't work for Kovac. I never did. What happened that night? I know what happened. You warned him about the poison. Very heroic. The man's smile didn't reach his eyes. Unfortunately, that heroism cost my employer a significant opportunity, and he'd like to understand why. Why what? Why you did it. You had no stake in that game. Could have walked away. Should have walked away. He tilted his head. So why didn't you? It was the right thing to do. The man laughed, sharp and humorless. The right thing. You saved a man who's killed more people than you've probably met in your entire life. You call that right? I call it not being a murderer. Semantics. Lena's hands curled into fists at her sides. If your employer has a problem with me, tell him to come here himself. He's dead. The words hung in the air. Lena blinked. What? Victor Salazar, dead, 3 weeks after that dinner. The man leaned forward. Kovac's people found him in a warehouse. Took their time with it, from what I heard. Very thorough. Nausea rolled through her stomach. I didn't know. Of course you didn't. You ran like a scared rabbit. But the rest of us? We had to live with the consequences. His voice hardened. Salazar had people, loyal people, and when he disappeared, we had decisions to make. Some of us bent the knee to Kovac. Some of us scattered, and some of us decided we wanted answers first. I already told you why I did it. Yeah, you did, and I almost believe you. He stood, buttoning his coat. But see, my problem is this. Your story's too clean. Nobody risks their life for a stranger because it's the right thing. Not in our world, which means either you're lying or you're dangerously naive. Does it matter which? To me, no. But to the people I answer to now, it does. He pulled a business card from his pocket and set it on the table. You've got 48 hours to think about whether you want to tell the truth. After that, we stop asking nicely. He walked to the door, paused with his hand on the handle. Nice town, by the way. Quiet. Be a shame if something happened to it. Then he was gone. Lena stood frozen, staring at the card on the table. No name, just a phone number. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely pull out her phone. She dialed the number Kovac had called from, her breath coming in short gasps. It rang 4 times before someone picked up. Yes? A woman's voice, the same assistant from before. I need to talk to Kovac. Now. He's unavailable. I don't care. Tell him Salazar's people found me. A pause. Hold. 30 seconds stretched into eternity. Then Kovac's voice, sharp and alert. Where? The diner. He just left. Said I have 48 hours. To do what? Tell the truth, whatever that means. Lena's voice cracked. You said they didn't know about me. They didn't. Someone talked. Who? I'll find out. In the meantime, you need to leave, tonight. And go where? You said you'd keep me safe. I said you were safe from Salazar. He's dead. His organization fractured. I don't control what happens to the pieces. Kovac's tone shifted, almost gentle. Listen to me carefully, Miss Varelli. Pack a bag. Get in your car. Drive somewhere public, a truck stop, a rest area, anywhere with cameras and people. Stay there until I call you back. I don't have a car. Then take a bus, a cab. I don't care. Just move. Now. The line went dead. Lena grabbed her coat and ran. She made it 3 blocks before headlights flooded the street behind her. A car slowed, pacing her. Not the same man from the diner. This was a sedan, windows tinted, engine purring like a threat. Lena cut through an alley between the hardware store and the post office, her boots slapping against wet pavement. Behind her, car doors opened. Footsteps. She burst onto the next street and saw Ben's sedan parked outside his apartment building. The lights were on in his window. Lena ran up the steps and pounded on his door. Ben, open up! Silence. Then footsteps inside. The door cracked open and Ben's confused face appeared. Lena? What? She shoved past him into the apartment and locked the door behind her. Do you have a car? Yeah, but I need to borrow it right now. Ben stared at her, taking in her wild eyes, her heaving breath, the way she kept glancing toward the window. What's going on? I can't explain. I need your car, please. Are you in trouble? Yes, but it's not. She stopped, realizing how insane this sounded. Please, Ben, I'll bring it back. I promise. He studied her for a long moment, then grabbed his keys from the counter. I'm driving. No, you can't. If you're in trouble, I'm not letting you go alone. He pulled on a jacket. Where are we going? Lena wanted to argue, wanted to protect him from this, but there wasn't time. Through the window, she could see the sedan parked across the street, engine idling. Anywhere but here. They went out the back, through a small yard that connected to the alley. Ben's car was parked in a shared lot behind the building. They climbed in, and he started the engine without turning on the headlights. Duck down, he said. Lena slid low in her seat as Ben reversed slowly, then pulled onto a side street that ran parallel to Main. He drove carefully, not speeding, not drawing attention. You want to tell me what's happening? He asked. Not really. Someone following you? Yeah. Cops? Worse. Ben's jaw tightened, but he didn't push. They drove in silence for 10 minutes, then 20. Lena kept checking the mirrors. No headlights behind them. Maybe they'd lost them. Maybe... Her phone rang. Kovac. She answered. I'm in a car, heading west. Good. There's a motel 50 miles out, just past the state line. The Starlight Inn. Go there, room 12. Keys under the mat. How did you... I own it. Stay there. I'm sending people. What people? The kind who keep you alive. He hung up. Lena looked at Ben. Take Highway 34 west. For how long? 50 miles. He nodded and kept driving. The Starlight Inn appeared an hour later, a rundown motel that looked like it had been abandoned and then half-heartedly reopened. Only 2 cars in the lot, no lights in the office. Ben parked near room 12. This place looks like a horror movie. I know. Lena, what the hell is going on? She turned to face him, guilt crushing her chest. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have dragged you into this. Into what? Something I can't explain, something dangerous. She opened the door. You should go. Drive back to Millbrook. Forget you saw me. Are you serious? Yes. I'm not leaving you here alone. Ben, no. His voice was firm. I don't know what you're running from, and maybe you can't tell me, but I'm not leaving you in a creepy motel in the middle of nowhere. So either you let me help, or I sit in this car all night like an idiot. Your choice. Lena stared at him, this kind, stubborn man who had no idea what he was offering. You don't understand what you're getting into. Then explain it. She wanted to tell him everything about her father's debts, about Pier's Edge, about the poison and Kovac and the men who'd just tracked her across 2,000 miles. But the words stuck in her throat. I can't. Can't or won't. Both. Ben sighed. Fine, but I'm staying. They found the key under the mat, exactly where Kovac said it would be. The room was small and cold, smelling faintly of bleach and old smoke. 2 beds, a bathroom with rust stains in the sink, curtains that didn't quite close all the way. Lena sat on the edge of one bed, head in her hands. Ben locked the door and pulled a chair over, sitting backward on it. How long do we wait? He asked. I don't know. He said he's sending people. Who's he? Lena didn't answer. Ben leaned forward. Look, I get it. You don't trust me. Fair enough. But if someone's coming after you, I need to know what we're dealing with. We're not dealing with anything. This is my problem. You made it my problem when you knocked on my door. He was right, and she hated that he was right. There were some men back in the city, she said slowly. I saw something I wasn't supposed to see. Now they want to make sure I don't talk. About what? I can't tell you that. Did you go to the police? Lena laughed bitterly. The police can't help with this. Why not? Because the people looking for me own half the police. Ben absorbed that. Jesus, what did you see? Ben, I'm not asking for details, just, was someone hurt? Lena thought about Salazar, dragged out of that restaurant and never seen again. Thought about Kovac's cold eyes as he orchestrated the whole thing. Yes, she said quietly. Someone was hurt. And you witnessed it. Sort of. Did they threaten you? They don't have to. That's how these people work. They don't threaten, they just act. Ben stood, pacing. Okay. So we go to the FBI. Witness protection. That's a thing, right? I'm not a witness to anything prosecutable. Then what are you? A liability. The word hung heavy in the air. Ben stopped pacing. Who's the guy on the phone? The one sending people? Lena hesitated. Someone who thinks he owns me. Does he? I don't know anymore. They sat in silence. Outside, wind rattled the windows. Lena's phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. 3 hours out, stay put. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone except us. Knock pattern. 3 fast, 2 slow, 1 fast. She showed Ben the message. Who's us? He asked. No idea. 3 hours felt like 3 days. They took turns watching out the window, though there was nothing to see except empty highway and dark fields. Lena tried to sleep, but couldn't. Her mind kept circling back to the man in the diner, to his casual threat about Millbrook, to the way he'd smiled when he said it. Be a shame if something happened to it. She thought about Ruth, about the kids in Ben's class, about the people who'd been kind to her without asking questions. If Salazar's people went after them. Stop, Ben said. Lena looked up. What? Whatever you're thinking, stop. I can see it on your face. You don't know what I'm thinking. Whatever you're blaming yourself for putting people in danger. He sat beside her. Am I close? Too close. I should have stayed in the city, Lena said. Should have dealt with this there. And gotten killed? Maybe, but at least no one else would have been involved. That's stupid. She glared at him. Excuse me? You heard me. That's a stupid thing to say. Ben's voice was gentle but firm. You ran because staying would have gotten you killed. That's not cowardice, that's survival. And whatever happens next isn't your fault. It's the fault of the people coming after you. You don't understand. You're right, I don't. But I understand enough to know you don't deserve whatever guilt you're carrying. Lena's eyes burned. She looked away, blinking hard. You don't know me, Ben. Maybe not, but I know you're a good person. I've seen how you work, how you treat people. You think someone who didn't care would have warned a stranger about poison? Her breath caught. How did you? I'm not an idiot, Lena. You said you saw something, that people got hurt. It doesn't take a genius to put it together. He paused. You saved someone's life, didn't you? She nodded slowly. Then you did the right thing. Whatever happened after, that's not on you. A knock at the door made them both jump. 3 fast, 2 slow, 1 fast. Lena stood, heart hammering. Ben moved in front of her, protective. "Who is it?" he called. "Kovac sent us." A woman's voice, low and authoritative. Lena opened the door. 2 people stood outside. The woman was in her 30s, dark hair pulled back, wearing tactical pants and a leather jacket. The man beside her was older, 50s maybe, with a scar across his knuckles and eyes that had seen too much. "Miss Varelli," the woman said. "I'm Sarah. This is Martinez. We're here to get you somewhere safe." "Safe where?" "Different state, different name, different life." Sarah's gaze flicked to Ben. "Who's this?" "A friend," Lena said quickly. "He helped me get here." Sarah studied Ben for a long moment. "He can't come." "What?" Ben stepped forward. "I'm not leaving her." "You are. Right now. Drive back to Millbrook. Go to work tomorrow. Act like nothing happened. If anyone asks about Lena, you tell them she quit without notice. You don't know where she went. Understood?" "No, not understood. I'm not just—" Martinez stepped forward, his presence a wall of quiet menace. "Son, this isn't a discussion. Go home. Forget her. It's safer for everyone." Ben looked at Lena, something desperate in his eyes. "Tell them you want me to stay." She wanted to believe there was a version of this where Ben came with her, where they figured it out together, where she didn't have to disappear alone. But that wasn't reality. "You should go," she said quietly. "Lena, please, Ben, just go." He stared at her, hurt and confusion written across his face. Then he grabbed his keys and walked out, slamming the door behind him. Lena flinched at the sound. Sarah waited until his car drove away before speaking. "You shouldn't have told him anything." "I didn't tell him much." "Doesn't matter. He knows you're running from something. That makes him a thread. Threads get pulled." Sarah turned to Martinez. "We need to move. Salazar's people are maybe 30 minutes behind us. Maybe less." "How do you know?" Lena asked. "Because they're not subtle, and we've been tracking them since they left the city." Sarah grabbed a duffel bag from her shoulder. "Put these on. Jeans, hoodie, sneakers. Leave everything else." "My phone." "Leave it. They've probably cloned it by now." Lena changed quickly, abandoning her clothes, her wallet, the last physical pieces of the person she'd been. Sarah handed her a new phone, burner, prepaid, and a fake ID. "Claire Morrison," Lena read. 29, Portland, Oregon. "That's you now, at least until Kovac figures out what to do long term. And if he doesn't, then Claire Morrison lives a very quiet life in Portland and hopes nobody comes looking." They left through the back window, crossing an empty field to where a black SUV waited on a service road. Martinez drove, Sarah rode shotgun, and Lena sat in back, watching the Starlight Inn disappear behind them. "Where are we going?" she asked. "Airport, private charter. You'll be in Portland by morning." "And then?" "Then you wait. Kovac's cleaning up the mess. Shouldn't take long." "What does that mean?" Sarah met her eyes in the rearview mirror. "It means Salazar's people made a mistake coming after you. Kovac doesn't like mistakes." Lena's stomach twisted. "He's going to kill them." "Probably. Because of me. Because they broke the rules. You don't go after civilians. Not without permission. They knew that and did it anyway." Sarah's voice was matter of fact. "So yeah, Kovac's going to send a message. That's how this works." Lena leaned back against the seat, exhaustion crashing over her. More blood. More bodies. All because she'd warned a man about poison. She thought about Ben driving back to Millbrook alone, probably confused and angry. Thought about Ruth opening the diner tomorrow to find Lena gone without a word. Thought about the life she'd barely started building, already ripped away. "Can I ask you something?" she said to Sarah. "Depends." "Why does Kovac care? I'm nobody. Why go through all this trouble?" Sarah was quiet for a moment. Then, "You know what Kovac values most? Power? Loyalty. People who act when they don't have to. People who make hard choices." She glanced back. "You didn't owe him anything that night. Could have walked away. But you didn't. That matters to him. So he owns me now. He protects you now. There's a difference. Is there? Sarah didn't answer. They drove through the night, stopping only for gas. Lena dozed fitfully, waking every time the car slowed or turned. By the time they reached the airport, a small regional strip with a single runway, the sun was rising. The plane was waiting. Small, sleek, expensive. Martinez handed her a bag. Cash, new cards, burner phones, address in Portland. Apartments paid up for 6 months. And after 6 months? Cross that bridge when you get there. Lena climbed the stairs, pausing at the top to look back. Sarah stood beside the SUV, arms crossed, expression unreadable. What happens to Ben? Lena called down. Nothing, as long as he keeps his mouth shut. And if he doesn't? Sarah's silence was answer enough. Lena stepped inside the plane and sat down, buckling herself in. The door closed, the engines roared, and within minutes they were airborne, Nebraska disappearing beneath clouds and distance. She pressed her forehead against the window, watching the ground fall away, and wondered if she'd ever stop running. Portland was gray and cold when she landed. A driver met her at the hangar, different face, same quiet efficiency, and took her to an apartment in a neighborhood she didn't recognize. The place was furnished but impersonal. Couch, bed, kitchen table. Nothing on the walls. No books. No photos. No signs anyone had ever lived there. The driver handed her a key. Kovac will call when it's safe. When will that be? When it's safe. Then he left, and Lena was alone. She set her bag down, looked around the empty apartment, and felt the weight of it all crash down. The fear, the exhaustion, the guilt. She sank onto the couch and let herself cry for the second time in 6 months. When her phone finally rang 3 days later, she almost didn't answer, but the number was one she recognized now. It's done, Kovac said without preamble. What's done? Salazar's people, the ones who came after you. They won't be a problem anymore. Lena's throat tightened. You killed them. I eliminated a threat, to you and to my organization. How many? Does it matter? Yes. A pause. 3. The man who approached you in the diner and the 2 who followed you to the motel. 3 bodies, 3 people dead because she'd warned Kovac about poison 5 months ago. I didn't ask you to do that, she whispered. You didn't have to. That's what protection means, Miss Varelli. I don't want this kind of protection. Then you should have let me die. The line went quiet except for the sound of Lena's breathing. The town's safe, Kovac continued. Your friend Ben is safe. You're safe. That's what you wanted, isn't it? I wanted to disappear. You have. Claire Morrison, Portland, Oregon, new life, clean slate, everything you ran for. Except I'm still looking over my shoulder, still waiting for the next phone call, still living in a cage. That's the price, Miss Varelli. Some cages are just bigger than others. He hung up. Lena sat in the silent apartment, staring at the phone, and realized Kovac was right. She'd never be free. Not really. She'd saved his life, and in doing so, she'd bound herself to him in ways she was only beginning to understand. The debt her father left behind was paid, but she'd created a new one. To a man who didn't forget favors, didn't release assets, didn't let go. And somewhere, 2,000 miles away in a small town called Millbrook, Ben was probably wondering what happened to the woman who'd knocked on his door in the middle of the night and then vanished like smoke. Lena hoped he'd forget her, hoped he'd move on, meet someone normal, live a life without shadows. But she knew hoping didn't change anything. It never had. The rain in Portland never really stopped. It just paused, hovering in the air like it was waiting for permission to fall again. Lena had been Claire Morrison for 8 weeks now, and she still wasn't used to the grayness, the sky, the buildings, the people hurrying past with their heads down and earbuds in. She worked at a bookstore in the Pearl District. Small place, mostly used books, the kind of shop that smelled like old paper and coffee. The owner was a woman in her 60s named Diana, who asked exactly 0 questions when Lena walked in looking for work. Just handed her an apron and showed her how to work the register. It was peaceful, quiet, exactly what she'd wanted, and it was driving her crazy. Every morning she woke up in the too-clean apartment and waited for something to go wrong. For Kovac to call with new instructions. For Salazar's remaining people to find her. For Ben to somehow track her down and demand answers she couldn't give. But nothing happened. Days turned into weeks, and the silence felt more threatening than noise ever had. She'd stopped checking over her shoulder after the first month. Stopped jumping when the door chimed at the bookstore. Stopped holding her breath every time an unfamiliar car parked outside her building. Sarah had been right. The cage was bigger here, but it was still a cage. On a Tuesday morning in late November, Lena was shelving books in the fiction section when Diana called from the front. "Claire, someone's here for you." Lena's blood went cold. She set down the stack of paperbacks and walked to the counter, every muscle tensed for flight. A woman stood near the door, mid-40s, business casual, carrying a leather messenger bag. She didn't look like one of Kovac's people. Didn't look like a threat. But Lena had learned that threats rarely looked like threats. "Can I help you?" she asked, keeping the counter between them. The woman smiled. "Are you Claire Morrison?" "Depends who's asking." "My name's Rachel Chen. I'm a social worker with the Oregon Department of Human Services." She pulled out an ID badge, held it up. "I need to talk to you about your brother." For a moment, Lena forgot to breathe. "My brother?" "Marco Varelli. I understand you two are estranged, but there's been a situation, and you're listed as his emergency contact." The room tilted. Lena gripped the counter. "What kind of situation? Is there somewhere we can talk privately?" Diana was watching from behind a stack of inventory, concern written on her face. Lena gestured toward the back office, and Rachel followed her inside. The office was cramped, barely room for a desk and 2 chairs. Lena sat, trying to keep her hands steady. "What happened to Marco?" Rachel pulled a file from her bag. 3 days ago, your brother was admitted to Emmanuel Hospital with acute liver failure. He's been in intensive care since then. The doctors say it's related to long-term substance abuse." Lena's stomach dropped. Substance abuse? According to his medical history, he's struggled with opioid addiction for several years. Were you aware of this? Lena stopped. Marco had been clean for 8 years, since the bad batch of cocaine that nearly killed him, since the nurse who'd recognized the symptoms. He'd been clean, hadn't he? "I need to see him," Lena said. "That's why I'm here. He's been asking for you, but there's a complication." Rachel's expression softened. "Your brother doesn't have insurance. The hospital bills are already substantial, and if he needs a transplant, which is likely, the costs will be in the hundreds of thousands. He doesn't have anyone else? No spouse, no children, parents deceased. You're it." Lena felt the walls closing in. This was impossible. She was Claire Morrison now. She didn't have hundreds of thousands of dollars. She didn't even legally exist as Lena Varelli anymore. "I don't have that kind of money," she said quietly. "I understand, but there are programs, Medicaid, charity care. It'll take time to process, but how much time does he have?" Rachel hesitated. "The doctors aren't sure. Days, maybe. A week at most without intervention." Lena stood pacing the tiny office. "I need to think. I know this is overwhelming, but please, just give me a number where I can reach you." Rachel handed her a business card. "He's in ICU, room 447. Visiting hours are until 8. After Rachel left, Lena sat in the office for 20 minutes, staring at the card. Then she pulled out her phone, the burner Kovac's people had given her, and dialed the number she'd memorized but never called. It rang twice. "Miss Varelli," Kovac's voice, calm as always. "I was wondering when you'd call. You knew about Marco. I know about everything that concerns you. That's my job." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you would have done exactly what you're about to do. Run back to the city, put yourself at risk, compromise everything we've built." "Built?" Lena's voice cracked. "You mean the lie? The fake name? The life where I pretend my brother isn't dying?" "Your brother made his choices, Miss Varelli, just like you made yours. He was clean, 8 years clean." "Was he?" Kovac's tone suggested he knew otherwise. "Or did you want to believe that because it made leaving easier?" Lena closed her eyes. I need money. For his treatment. No. I'm not asking for charity. I'll pay you back. Work it off, whatever you want. The answer is no. He's my brother, and he's a liability. You go back there, you expose yourself. Every remaining fragment of Salazar's organization is still looking for leverage against me. You show up at a hospital using your real name, they'll know within hours. Then I'll be careful. There is no careful with this. You walk into that hospital, you might as well paint a target on your back. Kovac paused. I'm sorry about your brother, truly, but I won't let you throw away your life for someone who can't be saved. You don't know that he can't be saved. I know the survival rate for end-stage liver failure in addicts. It's not good. Lena's hand tightened around the phone. You're a real piece of shit, you know that? I've been called worse by better people. I'm going to see him, with or without your help. Then you do it without my protection. The moment you step foot in that hospital, we're done. Sarah, Martinez, the apartment, the new identity, all of it disappears. You'll be on your own. Fine. Miss Varelli. She hung up. For a long moment, she sat there, shaking with anger and fear and something that felt like grief. Then she grabbed her coat and walked out of the bookstore without a word to Diana. The hospital was across town. Lena took 2 buses and walked the last 6 blocks, her hood up, eyes down. The ICU was on the 4th floor, and security was tight. She had to show ID and sign in at the desk. She used her real name, Lena Varelli. The nurse gave her a visitor badge and directed her to room 447. Marco looked worse than she'd imagined. His skin had a yellow tinge, his eyes were sunken, and machines beeped steadily around him, monitoring vitals that seemed too weak to sustain life. Lena stood in the doorway, frozen. He turned his head, saw her, and something like relief crossed his face. Lena. His voice was barely a whisper. She crossed to his bedside, pulled up a chair. Hey. You came. Of course I came, you idiot. A weak smile. Thought you'd left for good. I did. But you're still my brother. Marco's eyes closed. I'm sorry. For what? For this. For calling. For dragging you back. He coughed, and the machine screamed in protest. A nurse appeared, checked his vitals, adjusted something in his IV, then left. When he could breathe again, Marco said, I tried to stay clean. I really did. What happened? Everything, nothing, I don't know. He stared at the ceiling. After you left, I kept thinking about what you said, about needing to disappear, and I wondered if maybe I should have gone with you, started over somewhere. Why didn't you? Because I'm a coward. His voice broke. I stayed. Kept working the same job, living in the same shitty apartment, and then one day I ran into Tommy. You remember Tommy? Lena nodded. Tommy had been Marco's dealer 8 years ago. He offered me something, said it would help with the stress. Just once, you know, just to take the edge off. Marco's eyes were wet, but once turned into twice, and twice turned into every day, and now he gestured weakly at the machines, the tubes, the evidence of his body failing. Lena took his hand. It felt fragile, like bird bones. The social worker said you might need a transplant. Can't afford it. I'll figure something out. No, you won't. Marco looked at her. I saw the name you signed in with, Lena Varelli. That means you're using your real name again, which means whoever you were hiding from, you're not hiding anymore. It doesn't matter. It does. You ran for a reason. Don't throw that away from me. You're my brother. I'm not letting you die. You might not have a choice. He coughed again, harder this time. Blood flecked his lips. The machines wailed and nurses rushed in. You need to leave, one of them said to Lena. She stood, backing toward the door, watching as they worked on him. Marco's eyes found hers one last time before they put a mask over his face. In the hallway, Lena leaned against the wall and tried to breathe. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered without thinking. You signed your real name. A man's voice, unfamiliar. That was stupid. Lena's heart stopped. Who is this? Someone who's been looking for you for a long time. Thanks for making it easy. The line went dead. Lena ran. She took the stairs instead of the elevator, bursting out into the lobby and pushing through the main doors. Outside, rain fell in sheets. She scanned the parking lot, looking for threats, for movement, for anything out of place. A black sedan sat near the entrance, engine running. Lena turned and ran the other direction, cutting through the emergency room parking lot toward the street. Behind her, car doors opened. Footsteps. She made it to the sidewalk before someone grabbed her arm. She spun, swinging wildly, and connected with something solid. A man grunted, stumbled back. Lena ran again, her lungs burning, rain blinding her. Ahead, headlights. A car screeched to a stop in front of her, blocking her path. The passenger door opened and Sarah leaned out. "Get in!" Lena didn't hesitate. She dove into the car and Martinez floored it before she'd even closed the door. "Buckle up," Sarah said. Lena fumbled with the seatbelt, looking back through the rear window. The black sedan was following, weaving through traffic. "How did you—" "Kovac had us watching the hospital. Said you'd do something stupid." Sarah twisted in her seat. "He was right. They knew I was there. They called me." "Of course they did. You used your real name. Might as well have sent up a flare." Martinez took a hard left, tires squealing. The sedan followed. He took another turn, then another, navigating side streets with practiced precision. "How many?" he asked Sarah. She was watching the mirrors. "2 in the sedan, maybe more waiting." "Can you lose them?" "Working on it." They shot through a red light, narrowly missing a delivery truck. The sedan wasn't as lucky. It clipped the truck's bumper and spun out, crashing into a parked car. Martinez didn't slow down. They drove for 20 minutes, doubling back, changing directions, making sure they weren't followed. Finally, Martinez pulled into an underground garage beneath a high-rise and killed the engine. Silence. Lena's hands were shaking. "My brother is still at the hospital," Sarah said. "They're not interested in him, just you." "I need to go back." "No, you need to disappear again. I can't just leave him there to die." Sarah turned to face her. "You don't have a choice. Those men at the hospital, they're not Salazar's people. They're freelancers. Someone put a bounty on you." Lena's blood turned to ice. "How much?" 50,000 for information leading to your location. Double that for delivery." "Who put it up?" "We don't know yet. Could be remnants of Salazar's network. Could be someone else you pissed off. Doesn't matter. What matters is that every lowlife with a grudge and a phone is looking for you now." Lena leaned back against the seat, closing her eyes. "So what do I do?" "You let us move you, somewhere farther, somewhere safer." "And my brother?" Martinez spoke for the first time. "We'll make sure he gets care, anonymously, but you can't see him again, ever." The words hit like a punch. "He's dying." "A lot of people are dying," Martinez said without sympathy. "You want to be one of them?" Lena wanted to scream, wanted to fight, wanted to do anything except sit in this car and accept that her brother was alone in a hospital room, hooked up to machines, waiting for an ending she couldn't prevent. But what could she do? "I need to call Kovac," she said quietly. Sarah handed her a phone. "He's waiting," Kovac answered on the first ring. "Are you injured?" "No." "Good. Sarah and Martinez will take you to a safe house. You'll stay there until we figure out who's funding the bounty." "You said if I went to the hospital, we were done." "I say a lot of things. Doesn't mean I let assets get killed out of spite." His tone shifted. "Your brother's medical bills will be covered. Full treatment, transplant if needed. But you don't contact him. You don't visit. You don't even think about him. Understood?" Lena's throat tightened. "Why are you doing this?" "Because you saved my life once. I don't forget debts. I don't want to owe you anything else." "Too late for that, Miss Varelli. You owed me the moment you chose to live instead of die." He paused. "Sarah will explain the next steps. Follow her instructions exactly. No improvisation. No heroics. And if I don't? Then you'll be dead by morning, and your brother will die in debt to a hospital that'll sell his organs to recoup losses. Your choice." "Eat my Tom shut the swimmer gates." The line went dead. Lena handed the phone back to Sarah. "He's charming," Sarah said dryly. "Come on, let's get you cleaned up." "Basın dami içe." The The safe house was in the industrial district, tucked between warehouses and rail yards. Inside, it was surprisingly comfortable, furnished, stocked with food, secure locks on every door and window. Sarah showed her around while Martinez did a perimeter check. You'll stay here 3 days, maybe 4. We're tracking the bounty, seeing who bites. Once we identify the source, Kovac will handle it. Handle it how? You really want to know? Lena didn't answer. Sarah pulled out a tablet, pulled up a file. In the meantime, you need to understand what you're dealing with. The people looking for you aren't organized crime anymore. They're opportunists, bounty hunters, ex-cops, private investigators, the kind of people who don't care about territory or rules. They just want the payday. How do I stop them? You don't. Kovac does. Sarah set the tablet down. But that takes time. And in the meantime, you sit tight and don't do anything stupid, like visit my dying brother. Exactly like that. Lena sank onto the couch. I can't just hide forever. Why not? It's worked so far. Has it? Lena's voice rose. I've been running for 6 months. New name, new city, new life. And it didn't matter. They found me anyway. Because you broke protocol. You used your real name. Because my brother is dying. And now you've put a target on both of you. Sarah's voice was hard. You want to help him? Stay alive. That's the only thing that keeps him safe. Lena wanted to argue. Wanted to say that staying alive wasn't enough. That hiding wasn't the same as living. That being Claire Morrison in Portland or Jane Doe in some other city wouldn't change the fact that she was trapped. But Sarah was already walking toward the door. Martinez is outside. I'll be back tomorrow with updates. Don't leave. Don't call anyone. Don't even look out the windows too long. Then she was gone, and Lena was alone again. She spent the first night pacing, the second night staring at the ceiling. By the third night, she'd stopped counting hours and just existed in the space between fear and exhaustion. Sarah returned on the 4th day with news. We found the source of the bounty. Lena sat up. Who? Woman named Elena Cross. She was Salazar's accountant, managed his finances, kept the books clean. When he disappeared, she tried to take over the operation. Didn't work. Kovac's people squeezed her out, and she's been looking for leverage ever since. Why me? Because you're the reason Salazar's dead. At least, that's how she sees it. Sarah pulled up a photo on her tablet. She put up the bounty 2 months ago. Took this long for someone to get a solid lead. The photo showed a woman in her 50s, blonde hair, expensive suit. She looked like someone's aunt, not a criminal. What happens to her, Lena asked. Kovac's handling it. That's not an answer. Sarah met her eyes. It's the only answer you're getting. That night, Lena's burner phone rang. Kovac. It's done. The bounty's been retracted. Elena Cross won't be a problem. Lena's stomach twisted. Is she dead? She's no longer a threat. That's all you need to know. How many people have died because of me? None. People have died because they made choices. Cross chose to put a bounty on you. Salazar chose to poison my table. The men at the hospital chose to chase you. His voice was firm. You didn't pull any triggers, Miss Varelli. Stop acting like you did. I still feel responsible. That's called being human. You'll get over it. She almost laughed. Will I? Probably not, but you'll learn to live with it. We all do. Silence stretched between them. Your brother had surgery yesterday, Kovac said. Transplant. Donor liver. He's stable. Lena's breath caught. He's alive? For now, recovery will take months, but the doctors say his chances are good. Can I see him? No. Kovac. No, the bounty's gone, but you're still exposed. Give it time. 6 months, maybe a year. Then we'll see. A year? Or you can visit him now and get him killed when the next opportunist comes looking. Your choice. Lena closed her eyes. I hate you? Noted. Sarah will move you tomorrow. New city, new name, same rules. Where? Somewhere you'll hate less than Portland. He hung up. Lena sat in the dark safe house, holding the phone, feeling the weight of everything pressing down. Marco was alive. Barely. And she couldn't see him, couldn't talk to him, Couldn't even send a message. But he was alive. That had to be enough. It had to be. The next morning, Martinez drove her to the airport. Same private charter, same silent efficiency. Sarah handed her a new ID at the gate. Anna Blake, Austin, Texas. You're kidding. Kovac thought you'd like the heat, change of pace. I don't like heat. Then think of it as punishment for being stupid. Sarah almost smiled. Job's waiting for you. Coffee shop. Owner's one of ours. Keep your head down. Don't make friends. Check in once a week. Same as before. Same as always. Lena boarded the plane, found her seat, and watched Portland disappear beneath clouds. Austin. New name. New job. New cage. But Marco was alive. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough to keep going. Austin was everything Portland wasn't. Hot, loud, crowded with people who smiled too much and talked to strangers like they'd known them for years. The coffee shop where Lena worked, where Anna Blake worked, sat on South Congress, wedged between a vintage clothing store and a taco truck that never seemed to close. The owner's name was Gloria, a woman in her 50s with gray braids and a voice that could cut through the espresso machines screaming. She'd hired Anna without asking for references, just handed her an apron and said, "You know how to make a latte?" "I can learn." "Good enough." That had been 4 months ago. 4 months of waking up in a studio apartment that smelled like someone else's cooking. 4 months of pulling espresso shots and wiping down tables. 4 months of being Anna Blake and trying to forget she'd ever been anyone else. It almost worked. The weekly check-ins with Kovac had become routine. She'd call the number, report that everything was fine, and he'd tell her to stay put. Sometimes Sarah would be on the line instead, giving updates Lena hadn't asked for. Marco's recovery was slow but steady. He'd been moved to a rehabilitation facility, was doing physical therapy, had gained back some weight. The bills were being paid. No questions asked. Lena wanted to feel grateful, wanted to accept that Kovac had kept his word, had saved her brother's life, had given her a chance to breathe. But gratitude felt too much like surrender. On a Tuesday, in late March, a man walked into the coffee shop just before closing. Lena was wiping down the counter, mentally counting the minutes until she could lock up and go home. He ordered black coffee and sat by the window, laptop open, but screen dark. Something about him made Lena's instincts scream. Not threatening exactly, just wrong, out of place. She brought him the coffee, set it down without meeting his eyes. "Thanks, Anna." She froze. Nobody here knew her name except Gloria, and Gloria had left an hour ago. The man looked up, and Lena's stomach dropped. It was Ben. He looked different. Thinner, tired around the eyes, wearing a jacket she'd never seen. But it was definitely him. "What are you doing here?" The words came out harsher than she intended. "Looking for you." His voice was quiet. "Can we talk?" "No." "Lena, that's not my name." "I know what your name is, and I know you've been running, and I know you didn't want me to find you." Ben closed his laptop. "But I found you anyway, so please, just 5 minutes." Every instinct told her to walk away, to call Sarah, to run, to protect herself the way she'd been taught. But Ben had driven, 2,000 miles? To find her. And the look on his face wasn't anger or accusation. It was worry. Lena glanced at the door. 5 minutes. That's it. She locked the front door, flipped the sign to closed, and sat down across from him. Ben stared at his coffee for a moment before speaking. "I tried to forget you, tried to convince myself you were just some woman passing through who needed help. But I couldn't." "You should have tried harder." "Probably. But I kept thinking about that night, about how scared you looked, about the way you said goodbye like you knew you'd never see me again." He looked up. And then I started asking questions. Lena's blood went cold. What kind of questions? About who you really were, where you came from, why you disappeared. Ben pulled a folded piece of paper from his jacket. "I found this." He slid it across the table. It was a newspaper clipping. From the city. 6 months old. The headline read, "Restaurateur Adrian Kovac survives alleged assassination attempt." The article was short, details scarce, but it mentioned Pierre's Edge, mentioned a private dinner, mentioned that sources close to the investigation believed someone had warned Kovac about the plot. No names, no photos. But anyone who knew what to look for could connect the dots. "How did you find this?" Lena asked. "I teach history. I know how to research." Ben leaned forward. "I'm not stupid, Lena. I know Kovac's reputation. I know what he is. And I'm guessing that night at the restaurant, you saw something, did something, and now you're paying for it. You don't know anything." "Then tell me I'm wrong." She wanted to lie, to protect him from the truth, to send him back to Millbrook where he'd be safe. But she was so tired of lying. "You're not wrong," she said quietly. "I warned him about poison, and he lived. And the person who tried to kill him didn't, and now I'm stuck in this—" She gestured vaguely. "Mess. New name, new city, every few months. Forever." Ben absorbed this. "Does Kovac own you?" "He thinks he protects me." "That's not what I asked." Lena met his eyes. "I don't know anymore. Maybe both. You could leave, disappear for real, go somewhere he can't find you." "There's nowhere he can't find me. I've tried." "Then you stop running." "And do what?" Ben reached across the table, took her hand. "Come back to Millbrook. With me. We'll figure it out together." The offer was so absurd, so impossibly naive, that Lena almost laughed. "Ben, you have no idea what you're saying." "I know exactly what I'm saying. You don't belong in this life. You're not a criminal. You're not one of them. It doesn't matter what I am. They won't let me go." "Who's they? Kovac? His people?" Ben's grip tightened. "Lena, you saved his life. You don't owe him anything more than that. It's not about owing, it's about—" She stopped, searching for words. "It's about survival. If I walk away, if I stop playing by their rules, people get hurt. My brother, you, anyone I care about. So you just accept it, spend the rest of your life hiding? What choice do I have?" Ben released her hand, sat back. "You always have a choice. It just might not be a good one." They sat in silence. Outside, traffic hummed past. Someone laughed on the sidewalk. Normal sounds, normal life. Everything Lena couldn't have. "You need to leave," she said finally. "Forget you found me. Go back to Millbrook and—" "I'm not leaving without you." "Ben? I'm not." His voice was firm. "You can tell me to go. You can call whoever you need to call and have me escorted out. But I'm not giving up on you." Lena felt something crack inside her chest. "Why?" "Because someone should. Because you deserve more than this. Because—" He stopped, shook his head. "Because I care about you, and I'm not walking away just because it's hard." Before Lena could respond, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Her stomach sank. She answered. "Hello." "Anna Blake." Kovac's voice, cold and sharp. "Who's the man in the coffee shop?" Lena's blood turned to ice. She looked around, scanning windows, doorways, shadows. "Where are you?" "I'm always watching. Answer the question." "He's nobody. A customer." "Don't lie to me. I know who he is. Benjamin Porter, high school teacher, Millbrook, Nebraska. The same man who helped you escape Salazar's people 8 months ago." "He just wanted to talk." "About what?" Lena glanced at Ben, who was watching her with growing concern. "Nothing important." "If it's nothing important, tell him to leave. Now." I can handle this." "Can you? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're about to do something catastrophically stupid." "I'm not doing anything." "Good. Keep it that way. Tell Mr. Porter thank you for his concern, but you're fine. Then send him home. If he's still in Austin by morning, I'll send someone to convince him more directly." The threat was clear. "Don't you dare touch him. Then make sure I don't have to." Kovac's voice softened slightly. "I'm trying to keep you alive, Miss Varelli. Work with me." He hung up. Lena set the phone down, hands shaking. "What was that, Jenny?" Ben asked. "You need to leave, tonight, right now." "Lena, I'm serious. Get in your car and drive. Don't stop until you're back in Nebraska. Not without you. They'll hurt you if you stay. They're watching us right now." Ben looked around the empty coffee shop. I don't see anyone. You're not supposed to. That's the point. Lena stood, pacing. Ben, please. I'm begging you. Go home. Forget about me. Live your life. What about your life? This is my life. This is all I get. That's bullshit. Maybe, but it's true. She turned to face him. You want to help me? Then leave. That's the only thing that keeps you safe. Ben stood, closing the distance between them. What if I don't want to be safe? What if I want to be with you? Then you're an idiot. Probably. He cupped her face in his hands. But I'd rather be an idiot with you than smart and alone. Lena's eyes burned. You don't understand what you're asking for. Then help me understand. She pulled away, putting space between them. I can't, because the moment I do, the moment I let you in, I put you at risk. And I can't. Her voice broke. I can't be responsible for another person getting hurt because of me. You're not responsible for any of this. Yes, I am. I made the choice. I warned Kovac. And everything that's happened since, Salazar's death, the bounty, my brother, you standing here right now, it all traces back to that one decision. A decision to save someone's life. A decision that cost other lives. You think I don't know that? You think I don't lie awake every night counting bodies? Lena's voice rose. 3 men died because Kovac wanted to protect me. Elena Cross is probably dead too. And for what? So I can serve coffee under a fake name and pretend I'm not trapped? Then stop pretending. How? Ben stepped closer again. Come with me, right now. We'll drive to the police, tell them everything, get you into witness protection. Real protection, not whatever Kovac's selling. I'm not a witness to anything prosecutable. Then we run, for real this time. No phones, no trail, just us. They'll find us. Maybe, but at least we'll be together. Lena wanted to believe him. Wanted to believe there was a version of this story where she and Ben drove off into some theoretical sunset and lived happily ever after. But she'd learned the hard way that wanting didn't change reality. I can't, she whispered. Ben's face fell. Why not? Because I'm not strong enough. Because I'm scared. Because I don't know how to be anyone except who they've made me. She wiped her eyes. You deserve better than that. Better than me. I disagree. Then you're wrong. They stood there, 2 people separated by circumstances neither of them had chosen and neither could escape. Finally, Ben nodded. Okay, I'll go. Relief and heartbreak warred in Lena's chest. Thank you. But I'm not giving up on you. I'm going to find a way to get you out of this. I don't know how yet, but I will. Ben. I will, he said firmly. He pulled a piece of paper from his pocket, wrote something on it, handed it to her. That's my number. If you change your mind, if you need help, if you just want to talk, call me. Anytime, I mean it. Lena took the paper, folded it carefully. You should forget about me. Not going to happen. He walked to the door, paused with his hand on the handle. For what it's worth. I think you're stronger than you realize. Then he was gone. Lena locked the door behind him and sank to the floor, paper clutched in her hand, and cried for the 3rd time since this whole mess started. She didn't call Kovac, didn't report what happened, just went home, climbed into bed, and stared at the ceiling until dawn. Her phone rang at 7. Sarah. Ben Porter left Austin 2 hours ago, heading northeast. Good. You okay? No. Sarah was quiet for a moment. For what it's worth, you did the right thing. Did I? You kept him alive. That counts. After Sarah hung up, Lena pulled out the paper Ben had given her, stared at his number, memorized it, then burned it in the sink and washed the ashes down the drain. Safer that way. 2 weeks later, Kovac called with different news. I'm pulling you back to the city. Lena sat up on the couch. What? Why? Because the game's changing. The remaining fragments of Salazar's organization are consolidating. New leadership, new territory, and they're asking questions about you again. I thought that was handled. It was. Now it's not. Kovac's tone was matter of fact. You've been reactive for 8 months. Running, hiding, waiting for the next threat. It's not sustainable. So what's the alternative? You come back. You work for me. Officially. Under my protection. Lena's stomach twisted. Doing what? What you're good at. Observing, reporting, staying invisible until you need to be visible. He paused. I'm offering you a choice, Miss Varelli. Keep running for the rest of your life, or stand your ground and fight back. That's not a choice. That's a trap. Maybe, but it's the trap you're already in. Might as well make it comfortable. And if I say no, then you go back to Portland, or Austin, or wherever. And in 6 months, we have this conversation again and again, until eventually someone gets lucky and you end up dead. Lena closed her eyes. What about my brother? He stays where he is, fully covered, no changes. And the people I care about, Ben, Ruth, everyone in Millbrook, off limits. As long as you're working for me, they're protected. That's the deal. It was the same cage, just with different bars. But maybe Kovac was right. Maybe running wasn't sustainable. Maybe the only way to survive was to stop being prey and become something else. Something harder. When do you want me? She asked. 2 days. Sarah will handle the details. He hung up. Lena sat in the silent apartment, feeling the weight of the decision settle over her. She thought about her father, who'd fought until it killed him. About Marco, who'd run from his demons until they caught him anyway. About Ben, who'd offered her an escape she couldn't take. And she thought about herself, about the woman who'd warned a monster about poison and set this whole chain of events in motion. That woman had been trying to do the right thing, and look where it had gotten her. Maybe it was time to stop trying to be good and start trying to survive. The flight back to the city was quiet. Sarah met her at the airport, drove her to an apartment in a building Lena didn't recognize, nicer than the others, furnished with actual furniture instead of temporary pieces. A place meant for staying, not hiding. This is yours, Sarah said, handing her a key. Real lease, real name, Lena Varelli. I thought I was supposed to be invisible. You were. Now you're something else. Sarah gestured around. Kovac wants you integrated, visible but protected. You'll work at one of his legitimate businesses during the day. Run errands, observe, report anything unusual. So I'm a spy. You're an asset. There's a difference. Is there? Sarah almost smiled. You'll figure it out. Lena started the next week. The job was at a construction company Kovac owned, office work mostly. Answering phones, filing paperwork, scheduling meetings. Boring, safe. But she paid attention, watched who came and went, noticed patterns, reported back to Sarah every Friday. Months passed. The work became routine, the fear faded to background noise. Lena learned to navigate Kovac's world without drowning in it. And slowly, reluctantly, she started to feel something like stable. On a Tuesday in October, almost exactly 1 year after that night at Pier's Edge, Kovac called her into his office. She took the elevator to the 23rd floor, walked the familiar hallway, and found him standing by the window like always. Miss Varelli, sit. She sat. Kovac turned to face her. You've done good work this year. Thank you. I'm serious. You've proven yourself reliable, observant, discreet. He moved to his desk, opened a drawer, pulled out an envelope. Which is why I'm offering you something. He slid the envelope across the desk. Lena opened it. Inside were legal documents, a property deed, paid in full. What is this? A house, small, quiet neighborhood, yours. Lena stared at the papers. I don't understand. You've been living in limbo for a year, running, hiding, existing, but not living. I think it's time that changed. Why? Because loyalty deserves reward, because you've earned it, because... He paused. Because you reminded me that some people still act without expecting something in return. That's rare, worth preserving. Lena set the papers down. I didn't do it for a reward. I know. That's why you're getting one. She looked at the deed again. A house. A place that was hers. Not temporary. Not conditional. What's the catch? No catch. You keep working for me. You stay loyal. You live your life. That's it. And my brother? He's been asking about you, wants to see you. I think it's time. Something broke inside Lena's chest. You're serious? I don't joke about family. Kovac pulled out another paper. He's at a halfway house in Queens. Address is there. Visit him. Talk to him. Just don't tell him details about your work. Lena took the paper with shaking hands. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. There's one more thing. Kovac pulled out a phone. Your friend from Millbrook, the teacher, he's been asking around, looking for information about you. Lena's stomach dropped. Is he in danger? No, but he's persistent, annoyingly so. Kovac set the phone down. I'm giving you a choice. Tell him to stop, or let him keep looking. Either way, he's not a threat, just an inconvenience. What happens if I tell him to stop? He stops. Or he doesn't. But at least you tried. And if I don't tell him anything? Then eventually he finds you, and you deal with it then. Lena thought about Ben, about his stubborn kindness, about the way he'd looked at her in that coffee shop and refused to give up. I'll talk to him, she said. Good. Call him tonight. Get it over with. Lena left the office with the envelope clutched in her hand and her mind racing. That night, she stood in her apartment, the temporary one, not the house she hadn't seen yet, and dialed Ben's number from memory. He answered on the second ring. Hello? Ben, it's Lena. Silence. Then, are you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. Where are you? Back in the city. It's complicated. It always is with you. But his voice was gentle. I've been looking for you. I know. You need to stop. Why? Because it's not safe. Because the people I work for don't like attention. Because... She stopped. Because I'm asking you to. Ben was quiet for a long moment. Are you happy? The question caught her off guard. Was she happy? No. But she wasn't miserable either. She was surviving, existing, finding small moments of peace between the fear. Maybe that was enough. I'm alive, she said. That counts for something. It's not the same thing. I know. Lena, I'm sorry, Ben, for dragging you into this, for not being the person you thought I was. Her voice cracked. For not being brave enough to take the chance you offered. You're one of the bravest people I've ever met. I'm really not. You saved a man's life knowing it could get you killed. You protected your brother. You survived things most people can't imagine. That's brave. Lena wiped her eyes. I should let you go. Wait, can I ask you something? Yeah. If things were different, if you weren't in this situation, would you have said yes? To Millbrook, to us? Lena closed her eyes. Yeah, I would have. Then that's enough. Ben, I mean it, knowing that's enough. I'm not going to keep looking. I'm not going to make things harder for you. But I need you to know, if you ever get out, if you ever find a way, I'm here. Always. You should move on. Find someone normal. Probably. But I'm not good at listening to advice. She could hear the smile in his voice. Take care of yourself, Lena. You too. She hung up before she could change her mind. The next day, Sarah drove her to the house. It was in a neighborhood Lena didn't know. Tree-lined streets and small yards and kids riding bikes. Normal. Quiet. The house itself was small but well-maintained. 2 bedrooms, a kitchen with actual counter space, a backyard with a fence. This is really mine? Lena asked. Really yours. Sarah handed her the keys. No strings, no conditions. Just yours. Lena walked through the empty rooms, her footsteps echoing on hardwood floors. She opened closets, checked windows, stood in the backyard, and felt grass under her feet. For the first time in over a year, she felt something like hope. That weekend, she visited Marco. The halfway house was clean but institutional, all beige walls and fluorescent lighting. Marco was in the common room reading a book. He looked better, healthier, more like the brother she remembered. He looked up when she walked in, and his face lit up. Lena, she crossed the room, and they hugged, carefully, like they were both afraid the other might break. You look good, she said. Liar. But thanks. He gestured to a couch. Sit. Tell me everything. There's not much to tell. You disappeared for a year. There's definitely something to tell. So she told him. Not everything. Not about Kovac or the poison or the men who died. But about running. About Portland and Millbrook and Austin. About trying to build a life and having it collapse. Marco listened without interrupting. When she finished, he said, I'm sorry. For what? For falling apart. For making you come back. He shook his head. For not being stronger. You're alive. That's what matters. Is it? Yeah, it is. They talked for 2 hours. About their father, about the debts, about the choices that had led them both here, about recovery and survival and the difference between the two. When visiting hours ended, Marco walked her to the door. You gonna be okay? He asked. I think so. You? One day at a time. He hugged her again. Thank you for not giving up on me. You're my brother. I'm not giving up on you, ever. Lena left the halfway house and stood on the sidewalk, breathing city air that smelled like exhaust and pretzels and 1,000 lives intersecting. She thought about everything that had led her here. The poison, the warning, the choice. If she could go back, would she make the same decision? She didn't know. But she knew this. She'd survived. Her brother had survived. And somewhere in Nebraska, a teacher was living his life because she'd been strong enough to let him go. That had to count for something. Lena walked to the subway, descended into the crowd, and disappeared into the flow of people heading home. Just another face in the city. Another person with a past and a present and maybe, just maybe, a future. The cage was still there. The rules still applied. Kovac still held the leash. But she had a house now, a place that was hers. A brother who was healing. Small pieces of a life that almost felt real. And sometimes, late at night when she couldn't sleep, she'd think about Pierre's edge. About the moment her fingers brushed that poison. About the split-second choice between walking away and speaking up. She'd chosen to speak. And yes, people had died. Yes, she'd been running ever since. Yes, she was trapped in a world she'd never wanted to be part of. But she'd also saved a life. Protected people she cared about. Survived when survival seemed impossible. Maybe that was enough. Maybe that was all anyone could do. Make choices, live with consequences, and keep moving forward. The train rattled through the tunnel, carrying Lena toward whatever came next. She didn't know what that would be. Didn't know if she'd ever be truly free. But she was alive. Her brother was alive. And in a world where death came easy and choices came hard, that felt like winning. Or at least like not losing, which in the end was all she'd ever really wanted.